Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into a super popular new cannabis product, HHC, and we're going to investigate its potential and, honestly, a pretty surprising link to one of the most vital minerals in your body, iron. So let's just get right to it. Is your legal high hiding a real health risk? Could this stuff, hexahydrocannabinol or HHC, be quietly messing with your iron levels? We're going to follow the clues, see exactly where the science takes us. Okay, first things first, we have to clear something up, and this is super important. The letters HHC can stand for two totally different things. In medicine, it's also short for hereditary hemochromatosis, which is a genetic iron overload disorder. So, to be crystal clear, for this whole explainer, when we say HHC, we are only talking about the cannabinoid. Got it? Good. So what exactly is this stuff? Well, HHC is a cannabinoid, and yeah, you can find tiny bits of it in cannabis naturally, but the HHC you buy, that's almost always made in a lab. The easiest way to think about it is like a souped-up version of THC. It's been chemically reinforced in a process called hydrogenation, which makes it way more stable and resistant to things like heat and light. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you see how HHC stacks up against its famous cousins THC and CBD, it definitely gets you high, somewhere around 70 to 80% of regular THC's punch, but it comes from that lab process. And that made in a lab part, that's the key to why it sits in this bizarre, complicated legal gray area. So how do they actually make it? Well, it's a multi-step process. They start with totally legal CBD from hemp. Then they use chemistry to turn that CBD into THC. And then, and this is the critical step, they use a heavy metal catalyst, stuff like palladium or nickel, to hydrogenate that THC into HHC. And right there, that's where you introduce all sorts of variables. And yeah, potential contaminants. And here's the kicker, the most crucial point, really. This whole process happens in a totally unregulated market. No one is forcing these companies to test their products for potency, for purity, or for those leftover metal catalysts. So, as a consumer, you just don't know what you're actually getting. Okay, so that brings us right back to our big question. How in the world could a cannabinoid from a vape shop possibly have a connection to something as fundamental as the iron moving around deep inside your body? What's the link here? Well, our first clue is where HHC goes to work in the body. Just like THC, it targets your endocannabinoid system, or ECS. This is this huge network of signals inside all of us that helps regulate pretty much everything, from your mood to your immune system. And in that system, HHC basically flips two main switches, or receptors. You've got the CB1 receptors, which are all over your brain. That's what causes the high. But then, and this is key for our story, it also hits the CB2 receptors hard. And those are mostly found outside the brain, on cells in your immune system and other parts of your body. And this is the aha moment. This is the big breakthrough in our investigation. Scientists found that these CB2 receptors, the ones HHC activates, are sitting right on the hematopoietic stem cells deep inside your bone marrow. These are the master cells that create all your other blood cells. And that is the connection we've been looking for. Why is that such a big deal? Because your bone marrow is literally the factory that pumps out all of your blood cells, especially your iron-rich red blood cells, the ones that carry oxygen everywhere. So we now have a direct pathway. Okay, so we've got a direct pathway. HHC can talk directly to the body's blood factory. So what now? Well, let's open up the case files on HHC's well-known relatives and see what clues they can give us. And right away, things get messy. The evidence for THC is, well, it's all over the place. On one hand, some research on chronic use suggests it might suppress the bone marrow and lead to lower red blood cell counts. But on the other hand, different studies found smokers can have higher counts, probably because their bodies are trying to make up for the carbon monoxide they're inhaling. But then we get to CBD, and this might be the smoking gun. A lab study found it could actually cause red blood cells to break down, a process called hemolysis. And the researchers themselves said, and I'm quoting here, this mechanism can provide the basis for tissular iron overload. Wow, that's a direct potential link to iron overload in your tissues. And just to make things even crazier, another cannabinoid, CBN, seems to do the opposite. Research shows it can actually protect cells from a specific type of iron-related damage. So the family history is complicated. Some might cause problems, others might actually help. Okay, so we've got this family of compounds that might suppress, increase, break down, or even protect cells when it comes to iron. It's a mess. So, given all these conflicting clues, what are the leading theories for how HHC itself could be affecting us? Well, scientists have basically boiled it all down to three plausible theories. They range from a kind of indirect influence on your bone marrow to straight up direct damage to your blood cells, and even some really deep interference with your cellular machinery. Theory one is what they call indirect modulation. Think of it like this. HHC is constantly whispering in the ear of your bone marrow factory through those CB2 receptors, maybe telling it to speed up or slow down production of red blood cells. Over time, that completely changes your body's overall demand for iron. Theory two is more direct, and honestly, it's probably the most worrying. It's called direct damage. The idea here is that HHC, just like that CBD study suggested, could be physically damaging your red blood cells, making them fragile and causing a slow, steady leak of iron into your system that your body has to store somewhere. And theory number three gets a little more speculative, but it's pretty fascinating. It's cellular interference. This one suggests HHC might be messing with really complex machinery inside your cells that depends on iron, kind of like we saw with CBN, either protecting them from damage or making them much more likely to be damaged. So what's the verdict? The truth is, there's no single, simple answer. The actual risk to any one person isn't a straight line. It's a tangled web of factors. How much you use, how long you use it, whether you're vaping or eating it, your own personal genetics, and of course, the big unknown, the purity of the product. So what does this all mean for you? Well, the main takeaway here is that extreme caution is absolutely warranted. You've got plausible ways it could cause harm, you've got a totally unregulated market, and you have a much higher theoretical risk for anyone who already has an iron disorder, like anemia or hemochromatosis. We are flying completely blind here. And this number really says it all. The number of published clinical studies that have directly looked at the effect of HCC on human iron levels is 0. A big, fat 0. It's a massive blind spot in public health, and scientists are now calling for this research to be done, and urgently. And all of this leaves us with one final and much bigger question to think about. In a world where new, unregulated products like this can pop up overnight way faster than science can possibly keep up, how much do we really know about what we're consuming?